What have we here in this box that has arrived in the Geek Lab, looking like it's the bastard love child of a PS Vita and a Nintendo Switch?
Well, I can tell you for certain that it definitely is not either one of those machines.
For ladies and gentlemen, despite the clothes it's wearing, this is not a Vista or a Switch. This has come straight out of the land of clones, and is neither.
Either way, let's take those clothes off and look at what we actually do have here. Is this actually a fake Vita? What exactly is this Vita Switch bastard love child, and is it any good? This thing cost me a whole £17 before shipping. That's just under £20 after shipping. That's just around $23 including shipping from the supplier I got it from.
Your mileage may, of course, vary.
And judging by the appearance of the box, we will let them off the damage that was obviously done in the post. Well, it's your typical clone system box. Nothing fancy. It's covered in a few simple pictures on the front to give you an idea of what it's supposed to do. Video, music, games, sound, pictures, and the settings symbol from the iPhone for some inexplicable reason. On one side we have some random game art, likely from games that are not even on the system. On the other side it shows the options for memory size and colours. Although the colour option has been spec'd, the memory size hasn't. I'm suspecting they likely all have the same memory option, so this would not be a factor for the warehouse guy. On the back, under what must be a warehouse sticker, it gives you some specs including the fact that it has a 4.3 inch true colour high definition TFT screen. It can support many different video formats up to 720p at 30 FPS. However, the spiel on the box does not seem to know what they're on about when it comes to which games it supports, as it says NES and 32-bit games support NES format game down.
Yes.
Apparently this can record video in the MP4 format, but we will see more about that shortly. It has built-in flash memory and support for up to an 8GB card. This thing has a 1000 mAh battery for 4 to 6 hours continuous playback and a USB 2 interface. Weight is about 160 grams. Love that. And apparently this is a Pixel gift box.
Whatever one of them is, but it sounds nice. Nice Pixel gift box.
Inside we get the console itself, surrounded by this cardboard insert to protect it. Nice. All bagged. We get a TV cable, earphones which, well... Also in the box is a USB cable for charging and an instruction manual, one side of which is in Chinese, and the other side of which may as well be for all the use it is, although to be fair, I have seen much worse. One good thing about the manual is that it lists the systems it can play correctly this time.
Unlike that daft box. Oh shite.
Okay, onto the system itself. In the hand, it does, to be honest, feel light, but it's not light to the point of feeling feather-light or cheap. A quick twist test shows the system to be rigid enough. The system feels comfortable in the hand, although the controls are a story of opposites. The main controls on the front, such as the D-pad and the main buttons, feel light in operation, but seem to be well enough built. The thumbsticks have a nice level of resistance, although they do have a bit of a rough feeling to them, which isn't present on my PSP. And this right-hand one still has a mould mark on it. The wing buttons up the top actually feel well made and offer a good level of resistance and a definitive click in operation. In the middle we have our 4.3 inch screen, which we'll take a look at in a moment. Along the top we have a power button, volume control buttons, our USB port, the SD card slot, a rocker power button and a headphone jack. With the headphone jack on mine, if I push the headphones in all the way, I get distorted sound. I have to slightly withdraw them to get the full abilities of the system. Now let's look at this left hand power button, whose presence confuses me. When at the home screen, you can use this to power down and restart the system. I had assumed it would restart the system where you left it, but no, it's a full power down, which is what the rocker switch is for, so I don't understand its purpose there. When in games you can use it to pause and unpause, doing exactly the same functions as the start button.
That button is a bit of an enigma.
On the back is where the fun starts. You have your two speakers, although it appears that only one is installed on the left hand side. Don't worry, the headphones are stereo though. And this hole, which appears to be blanked off, and this is where it all goes wrong. You see, that looks suspiciously like a hole for a camera, and if you take a sneaky peek at the front of the machine, here in tiny letters beneath the screen it says auto optical zoom. Even in the manual it states about it having a camera.
Now I have seen other reviews where a camera has been installed, but to say it was less than useless would be an understatement. So maybe they've decided to remove it, or they sell it differently in different markets.
There is also no sign of the camera app hiding in the OS. Other than that, on the rear, we just get this diagram of the two sides of the controllers, almost inferring that it will come off like on the Switch perhaps, and it states Portable Multimedia Player.
Now I'm sure that's for customs because their use of ROMs on this may not be entirely legal. Now I'm sure they've applied for the licenses and paid for them. I'm sure that's the case.
Okay, it's that time you've all been waiting for. Time to switch the bugger on. Wait a few seconds and... Whoa! That's a lot of screen flashing past very quickly. My head is spinning. Yep, that's the boot sequence. Oh well, it is what it is. In the end, it's not that important to the operation of the machine. And in the end, we want to know what games it has, what it can emulate, and how well it does that. But it's no good having a system being good at playing games if the screen itself is no good. And happily I can report that the screen is crisp and clear. Okay, the viewing angles are not the best, especially when you rotate up. So it's either not as bad as some has claimed, or they are using new screens. Before we look at the games themselves, let's quickly touch on the bottom row of the screen. Not that you care too much about most of it, so we won't linger. Game obviously goes into the games not shown here on the home screen. You have music, yes, it competently plays music and even as an equalizer. Videos actually does what it says on the tin and competently plays music up to its stated 420p resolution. So even for a media player, it's worth its asking price. You can read ebooks, but yes, so can every other device. Tools are recorder, stopwatch, calculator and calendar, but let's face it, you're going to be using this purely as a gaming machine and perhaps a movie or music player, so nobody cares about these. Moving on. Next, you have a browser, which is a browser, and last is settings. First in here is the backlight brightness, and you have a decent range of settings, although there is some lag in waiting for it to respond. You can set how long before the backlight goes off when it's not in use too. Under power saving, you can set the idle time, which shuts the system off completely after a set amount of time, and sleep time, which puts it into sleep mode after a set amount of time. But you can wake it up by pressing any button. You can set your date, time, language, tell it when to transmit to the TV, and yes, it does work, although you are definitely going to need to get a longer cable. Next, you can sync your media playlist, and under advanced, you have the ability to look at various information about the system, set keytone, set the effects setting, which turns out to be how the menu transitions. I personally like the cube. You can format internal and external memory, and set the username.
And now for the games themselves. Do they work? And is this a good machine to play them on? Let's have a look at the ones on the home screen first.
And on first sight, you can see that we have what appears mainly to be fighters, although a few platformers and an older NES game are thrown in for good measure. Unlike some other units I've seen reviewed, they've actually used the real game names on a lot of these, and there are some big titles, which I am obviously certain they will definitely pay the licenses for. Let's start with good old Mario. Playing this, the first thing you notice is the sound is running a bit fast, but credit where credit's due. It's not out of tune, unlike on some emulation systems.
The reason for this, it turns out, is that they put a UK ROM on a machine that runs at NTSC speeds. So to solve this, you just need to install the USA or Japan ROM, and all will run at fine speed.
Controls themselves are surprisingly really responsive. I've heard horror stories of some of these consoles where Mario was practically unplayable due to laggy controls. None of that nonsense here, it's all snappy and good to control. A slight issue you may notice was some screen tearing, but again for me at least, it doesn't detract from the gameplay after a short while, especially when it controls so well. Of course, this being an emulation machine, you have the ability to drop out and save your state. But beware, in-game saving does not appear to work. Next is Contra, that evil game that usually kills me rather quickly. But here I notice, I seem to have suddenly become an expert and refuse to die. Have I become a gaming god overnight? Nope, it seems that the ROM they've used has unlimited lives. Oh well, if you want to play NES Contra, seems you'll have to copy your own across.
Unless you want unlimited lives, that is, then crack on.
Battle City is tanks, a NES game.
All seems to control and play fine, no complaints here.
The King of Fighters is the King of Fighters. All is well there too, as far as I can tell. Crash Bandicoot is not, as I hoped originally, the PS1 version, but it's the Game Boy Advanced one. Turns out that this is a fun, side-scrolling platformer, which I've been enjoying playing myself.
I do owe a little something to this system because it has introduced me to the wonders of Metal Slug running on the Neo Geo. Even if that system music is a little bit wonky, I'm still rather enjoying it.
Fighter Resists, I'd take it that as Fighter Resistance, turns out to be Eco Fighters. Not sure how this plays on the original console, but all feels fine to me here. Now, there are more games than these built into the system, and for this you need to go to the Game option and onto the Optional Game. Here you have the option for the recent run list, which I think is a nice addition rather than having to search through the list. If you select Directory List, you can see all the other games that come in the system, including games from different systems. Unlike the experiences of other reviewers, in this latest version they all seem to work. Some will start like an arcade machine, doing their checks and seem to freeze. They haven't. You will either need to wait for them to boot or press a button and they usually continue. If you want to sort them into system order, it's easy enough to plug the system into your computer, go to the game directory, make some folders and sort through them. This game directory is where you'll place any ROMs you put onto the system too. The system accepts Game Boy Advance, Nintendo Entertainment System, binaries. I think this is referring to PlayStation games, but despite my best efforts I've been unable to get them to work on it so far. System also supports Game Boy Color, Game Boy, Sega Mega Drive, IMG, no idea what that one is, and strangely, although it supports the Mega Drive, it does not support the Master System, but it does support the Neo Geo. Yes! So let's see how these systems play in turn. Now the default Mario Bros, as we saw, runs fast, but put the USA NTSC version in, and all is now good. Although if you acquire Genesis ROMs, you will need to change the extension to SMD. All the other systems seem to run just fine, although I did have a few fail, as happens with many emulators. The only exception being the Neo Geo, where the music appears to be a wee bit wonky. Now I'm no expert by any stretch of the imagination on the Neo Geo, but gameplay appears, at least to me, to run just fine, if you can put up with the said music.
Well, final conclusions on the MP5 X7. Well, it is a machine of compromises, but at £20, I think the compromises it does have I'm willing to put up with, and try going back 5 years on finding a machine this capable at that sort of price point.
It does have some issues with emulation now and again, but I think most emulators are not perfect, and it's 20 bloody quid. If you're on a budget or want something to take out that you're not going to get too upset about if it gets damaged or goes missing, which, let's face it, you likely would with your PSP, this is a much better solution.
And for having a quick blast on the games I love and those that I've never had the joy of trying before.
Overall, if you're looking to do emulation, want something portable without breaking the bank, I think you can do far worse than this machine, and signs are that they actually do listen to feedback and have been improving it over the years. The same can't be said for a lot of others. So I hope that you found that informative and entertaining. If you've enjoyed the video, then please like it. You can join me and like-minded nutters on the various social media platforms, links below, and you can help keep this lunacy going and have your name shown at the end of the video by supporting us through Patreon. And I'd like to say a big thank you for watching.
You're a dirty boy.